Thanks for your patience. We were just getting ready to go, so we're ready to go. So first thing we'll do now is do the roll call for the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee. Acting Mayor John Middleton Hope. Deputy Mayor Campbell.
Present.
Councillor Parker.
Here.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Here.
So we do have quorum, so we can continue. First order of business is doing election of the chair and the vice chair.
Oh, yeah.
We've outlined the process for that election. Is there any questions or concerns with the process we've outlined? Councillor Schmidt-Rempel? Oh, no. Okay, sorry. Hearing no, we'll proceed. First order of business is election of chair. Is there any nominations for position of chair? Councillor Parker?
Thank you. And in his absence, he did send an email to members of the SBC, that being Acting Mayor Middleton Hope, requested that he would like the opportunity to be the chair. So I wanted to make sure I brought that on his behalf to today's meeting.
So I do have it in writing that he's accepted the nomination. Is there any further nominations? Hearing none, I declare Councillor Middleton Hope as the chair of the Standing Policy Committee. In his absence, we'll proceed to the election of the vice chair. Is there any nominations for position of vice chair?
I would like to nominate Councillor Mark Campbell.
Councillor Parker, do you accept? I'm sorry.
I do accept that for him, too.
You accept that too?
I accept that for him.
Councillor Campbell, do you accept that nomination?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. Any further nominations? Hearing none, I declare that Councillor Campbell is elected as vice chair by acclamation. And in the absence of Middleton Hope, I'd ask you to take over as chair in this particular meeting.
Oh, look, my stuff's here. Thank you very much. We will begin with our acknowledgement statement. Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot people past, present, and future while recognizing and respecting their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationships to the land. The city of Lethbridge is also the home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. So we'll get right to it with the adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, be it resolved that the agenda of the regular meeting of the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee on November 16th, 2023 be adopted as presented.
Do we have any additions or changes to the agenda, Mr. City Clerk?
We do not.
Seeing no additions or changes, I will call for the vote.
Question's been called. All in favor? That passes. Next, consent agenda from Councillor Parker. Be it resolved that the minutes of the Community Safety Standing Policy Committee held on October 12th be approved and the chair and the city clerk designate be authorized to sign the same. And further, be it resolved that the minutes of the Cultural and Social Standing Policy Committee held on October 19th, 2023 be approved and the chair and the city clerk designate be authorized to sign the same. And further, be it resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee status of initiatives for November 16th, 2023 be received as information. Councillor Parker.
If there's no changes at all to the minutes or any other parts of this, I would just ask for council support. Not council's, rather, it's SBC support.
I see no questions. Call for the vote. All in favor? And that passes. Next, we do have a presentation. And I believe we have Andrew Brown, Mark Mayer, Catherine Wagner online here for the Lethbridge Public Library Facilities Master Plan. So am I turning it over to Mr. Brown?
Yes, please.
Okay, take it away.
Thank
It's all yours.
Okay, Thank you, everyone. Our presentation takes about 10 minutes. However, the work that we've been involved with has taken about 19 months. So we, as a team of RPG Resource Planning Group in Vancouver and Dialogue in Calgary, we're all experienced library planners. We have spent about 18 months looking at Lethbridge and thinking about what is appropriate for the library in the future. So what we're presenting now is an overview of a substantial document, which I believe you all have access to, the Lethbridge Public Library Facilities Master Plan. We have not designed any facilities, but we have produced a plan which it indicates what we think you're going to need in the future. Next slide, please. So I've introduced Catherine from Dialogue and Mark from the Resource Planning Group. I'm Andrew Brown from the Resource Planning Group. We're going to talk about the purpose of the master plan, what inputs in terms of information and controlling factors went into the facilities master plan, what were our key findings, why we believe the public library is essential to the community, and why improvements are needed at the current main branch. And finally, there are recommendations about specific facilities that will be needed in the future, and then there's time for questions. Next slide, please. Okay, the purpose of the plan is to determine future Lethbridge Public Library services, resources, and facilities based on these very important factors. What is the population projection to the year 2050? What is the population distribution and the anticipated demographic patterns? What are the anticipated urban and suburban development patterns? What are access and public safety features that will optimize community attendance in the library and support the effective delivery of library services? What are accepted library planning standards nationally and internationally? And what are the anticipated future visits to Lethbridge Public Library branches? And the next line is very, very important. Based on our experience, and we have between us about 35 years experience planning libraries, and based on our understanding of your community, by 2050, the Lethbridge Public Library will attract approximately 500,000 to 750,000 visits a year. It's one of the biggest events in the annual life of the community. 500,000 to 750,000 visits a year. This is a major civic infrastructure. Next slide, please. Where did we get our information? What information did we consider? Well, we reviewed all that we know about social trends. Obviously, trends like how people are using digital technology, how people are using libraries, how different age groups are using libraries. We conducted an exhaustive review of your community, the profile of your community. Who's there? Who's coming? How is it growing? We looked at all your existing Lethbridge strategic plans for the town, the downtown, the growth of the city, the thinking about the future of the city. We looked at existing library services. We reviewed the existing main branch facility with an exhaustive architectural and structural and technological appraisal of the existing building. We looked at peer libraries. We looked at library planning standards and benchmarking. We established the best practices in modern public libraries. We looked into the economic benefits of public libraries, and we had a huge community engagement process where we've talked to many different focus groups outlined on the right-hand side of the slide. We asked for input from many different branches of government, arts and culture, education, health services, First Nations, etc. And we've done many focused stakeholder engagement groups. So we've done this over the last year. We've reached out to hundreds of people and had a tremendous amount of input. Our planning is based on this information. Next slide, please. What did we find out? And it's almost impossible to summarize the scope of information that you get back with this kind of exhaustive exercise. We found out that the importance of libraries has not diminished with virtual technologies and the presence of the internet. On the contrary, the libraries are being used even more, and they're expected to do even more than they did previously. The library can play a significant role in the vitality of the downtown of the city. Libraries provide a good return on investment. Library access is critical to Lethbridge residents. It's expected. The main branch, while well maintained, is aging and has significant functional issues. To put it bluntly, it's dysfunctional. Some areas of the city have greater need and are currently not well served, and we address these issues in the suggested master plan responses at the end of this presentation. The library is a desirable partner for other services and functions. This point almost cannot be overestimated. The library is a desirable partner for other services and functions. When you think about those 500,000 to 750,000 people a year, those people want to do other things as well as go to the library. It's a tremendous drawing card to other services like recreational, cultural, and commercial services. The size of the library facilities is linked very closely to the size of population served. Lethbridge Public Library is now and strives to be a high-performing library, and all the library's operational statistics support this. Standards for libraries range from half a foot squared per capita to 1 foot squared per capita, and we have used in this study an appropriate target about 8.8 square foot per capita, somewhere in between. In other words, this is a rational and a disciplined set of planning standards. We haven't gone overboard in any way in this study. Next, please. Why is the public library essential to the community? Probably the most important question in this presentation. It's a key economic driver for the growth and development of the community. The library is actually one of your major community development infrastructures. It builds literacy skills. Let's talk about that for a moment. Not just writing and reading literacy, but digital literacy, financial literacy, civic literacy, innovative professional literacy. It provides education from toddler level to retired people, lifelong learning. It provides and supports employment. It opens up opportunities and widens the horizons for all people seeking employment. It offers resources to improve one's quality of life, and it increases community capacity to contribute and invest in economic activities. The single largest driver of library facilities is the size of the population served. The Lethbridge Public Library must grow with the community to ensure that Lethbridge's diverse populations are appropriately and visibly served. If you look at your population today and say we've got approximately 100,000 people, in 2050, you're going to have 150,000 people. The library has to grow. Next slide, please. Just an example of the kind of crowd appeal of the libraries, doing events inside and outside. It's a great community builder. It's a great infrastructure pulling the community together. Next slide, please. Why improvements are needed at the main branch? This is an important question. The main branch as it stands now is unsuitable for delivery of contemporary library services. It's spatially truncated. It doesn't have appropriate floor loading capacities for collections. It has a torturous wayfinding system. It's difficult to understand the layout, and it's really not capable of extensive modification. So challenges include the access and wayfinding, the security due to poor sight lines and multiple entrances, the lack of building structure in key areas sufficiently to accommodate collections, and last but not least, the digital infrastructure and the communications infrastructure of the building does not adequately support information technology. So why build new over renovating or expanding? Well, there are challenges with the basic design, structural reinforced concrete, and the structural capacity of the existing building, as well as the spatial dimensions, the floor-to-floor layouts, the systems of interconnection between floors, and the general utilization of the space in terms of practical geometries. Why build on a new site? Well, there's a need for a temporary location during construction, capitalization on synergistic opportunities with other site partners to create a larger and more dynamic downtown. A new library is a major opportunity for downtown development in Lethbridge, a major opportunity. And there are, of course, subsequently opportunities for sale or repurposing of the existing site and facility for a less demanding function. Next, please. So the future facilities master plan that we have come to is based on an allocation, spatial allocation of 115,000 feet for a population of 150,000 people anticipated in 2050. And this responds to the goals and objectives of the City of Lethbridge's existing plans. And additional libraries are suggested that are strategically situated to optimize urban design opportunities and synergistic community activities. Do not build libraries by themselves. They are not isolated destinations. They are magnets for community activity. They support and enhance other types of community interaction. They are magnets for community interaction. Operationally sustainable facilities increase the livability of communities, especially when you consider ease of walking to and accessing services. Facilities and services respond to current and future community needs with flexible and adaptable spaces. These are really in short supply in the current facilities. These flexible spaces support a range of activities and programs. Next slide. So the Future Facilities Master Plan recommends an operationally superior new central library, a destination for all of Lethbridge, and I should add much of the surrounding region as well. One of the things we found is that your library is a regional magnet, and it provides an administrative hub for all of the library services throughout the community, and it has a major role in revitalizing the downtown core. Additionally, new branches would be constructed central to the north side and the south side communities. With regard to West Lethbridge, there are no upcoming capital initiatives identified. The existing Crossings branch has been expanded in 2023, but we do recommend an additional storefront branch and pop-up services that could extend the reach to more residents in a cost-effective way. These are lightweight, very mobile facilities that are being implemented all over North America to keep up with community growth and demand. Okay, next slide. This is a complex slide, but it's full of information for those who want to study it. It shows from left to right, it shows the population now, the population on the right-hand side in 2050 approaching 140 to 150, and the yellow line and the light gray line show the thresholds for when these library facilities would be required to be built and operational. So last slide, please. So just to summarize again, recommending a new central library that's a magnet for downtown community growth and a catalyst for community synergy, a new north branch and a new south branch. And let's see. Last slide, please. So the next steps would be, we have not done specific community branch. We've not done specific facilities design or service profiles. The next steps in this process after our work is done would be to engage the community around specific branch services and locations, to confirm site selection criteria and identify possible sites. Very, very important to explore opportunities for partnerships with city departments and with others. To develop detailed functional programs for each branch and detailed costs for each facility. To develop business cases, including possible funding sources. And finally, to undertake conceptual design and design development. All these things would need to happen prior to a construction program based on the timelines we've shown in the previous slide. Just to sum up, we've planned many libraries. We've been involved with the Vancouver Public Library, the wonderful Calgary Public Library, the new library that's coming that's been opened in Edmonton, the new one that's coming in Saskatoon, the new one that's being built in Ottawa. We've worked on Salt Lake City, Seattle, the Philadelphia Public Library, the New York Public Library. We've thought about libraries carefully for years and years, and they are a major facet of building the community. And we hope this project and the outline of this plan is instrumental in enabling Lethbridge to do this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
We have lots of time for questions. We have questions. We could answer questions if you have them. Thanks.
Oh, all right. I wonder if we do. First off, thank you for the presentation. And second of all, are there any members of the public that wish to make their own presentation as we allow that to happen at our SBC meetings? Anyone in the gallery? Yeah, the library, of course. I see no one. I want to acknowledge that CEO of the library, Tara Plato, is here with us as well. Welcome. I guess one of my first questions, Mr. Brown, for me is, what do you think is the life expectancy of the library the way it is right now? I think that graph was sort of indicating that a new library down that area was in the 2040s, I think.
Mark, would you like to address that question?
Sure, I can, although I think Catherine is the best person to answer it, because Dialogue did the facilities review. I'll just say as an overview, I think the library has been well taken care of. And so it's one of the reasons for the schedule of a replacement central library in about 2034 is the fact that it would probably take about that much time to do all the preliminary work to get to a library at that time. It's our experience you can't put up a new central library in just 5 years or something like that. It takes time to to develop the political will, to have the community behind the facility and so forth. But with that, I'll pass it to Catherine.
Yeah, if you're talking specifically about infrastructure as opposed to programming, because we've heard that the building doesn't support contemporary current programming needs, the building's reaching the end of its serviceable life. I agree with Mark. We found that there was consistent ongoing maintenance and operations attention, which has prolonged the life of the building. There's, for instance, new rooftop mechanical units, new roof, but we still see evidence of failure of windows, skylights, the exterior brick. The exterior envelope of the building is starting to erode. The grouting, the bricks are starting to fall apart. None of this is unexpected in a building of this age, but can be addressed in a piecemeal fashion, but it would be anticipated to continue to develop. And certainly from today's standards with respect to environmental design and sustainable design. The building, even though we have had the new rooftop units, which would have helped, the building envelope is not anywhere near the standards of today with respect to insulation and efficiency of water usage, that kind of thing.
And I know we're really early on here, but do you foresee a new library complex kind of almost at the same spot where it is right now? Or are you anticipating that, again, we're really early, but would you prefer that it expands to some other part of the city? Given that the library right now is pretty much a heart of the city kind of a place.
From my perspective, I think you're beginning to define a cultural precinct, and I think it makes sense for the library to be in close proximity or part of that. We haven't identified a specific site, but I think where it's located is generally not a bad place for it to be located, or in that vicinity anyways. I wouldn't move it to West Lethbridge or anything like that.
Thank you. Other questions from councillors? I see Councillor, Mayor Higgin. Sorry. Oh, you're Mayor. Oh, you're Mayor Crowson. Sorry, Councillor Crowson.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. I see we're going back to a branch model, right? Lethbridge has had that previously. Then when we built this building in the 70s, we pulled the branches back in. What are the advantages of a branch model for a community? Why do we seem to be, I know in larger communities you almost have to because of the size, but what are the advantages of it? Why are we looking at that again? And when you're looking at that, how does it better serve the clientele? And with our projected 500,000, who is that clientele? So a bunch of questions around that branch model that you're proposing.
Maybe I can initiate the answer on that. I think one of the things, and it's part of the city's strategic planning, is to have communities that are basically self-sufficient, where people can access a lot of the amenities close to where they are. So that's probably the first thing. So that really goes to the access question, and that's what we heard over and over again when we went out to the public. The second piece is that there's a real opportunity when you do have a branch model to be able to customize the services to that surrounding community. And so if it's a community of young families, you can focus on more children's services. If it has a demographic of more youth, you can do that. If it has people who are new immigrants and they need to develop their various literacy skills, you can have programs that address that. The other thing that I think I should add is that I don't know of any city, and Lethbridge is has a large footprint, mostly because it's separated by the Oldman River Valley. But I don't know of any city of the population size, and particularly as you move forward to 150,000, that does not have a branch system. I guess maybe Medicine Hat excluded, because I don't think it has a branch system, but it's quite a bit smaller than Lethbridge. But if you look at any other system around Alberta and pretty well across Canada, it would be a multi-branch system. And I don't know if anyone wants to add anything to that answer.
So in addition to that, how does the branch system affect operational funding? Because of course, if you're going to have branches, you're going to likely need more staff. So based on, like, if you add North Branch, how much would the operational funding have to go up to cover that?
We did begin to address that in the master plan, and there's a recognition that there would be more staff required for that. On the other hand, and this is when you look at a new central branch, I think that there are some real staff efficiencies that can be gained. And one of the things that we always watch out for when we're doing new central libraries, for example, is that you have a new facility with a lot of demand, and you have, you don't have the operational dollars to support all of that demand and so forth. I don't think that's the case for the main library transitioning to a new central library, just because it's such a functionally difficult library to operate right now. The other thing I can say, just around staffing, is that when we look at Lethbridge compared to other library systems, both in Alberta and beyond, I'll have to say that Lethbridge does have a healthy staffing or operating budget, even at this time.
Healthy or too healthy? No, don't answer that. With the branch system, what is the going way of doing it? Are they separate buildings on their own, or is it better to co-locate them with another organization? What is sort of the recommended branch model that you're seeing right now?
I think, as Andrew alluded to, it's really most branch libraries are part of a larger development, whether that's a recreation center, whether it's a community center.
A school.
Typically, it could even be, and some of it, for example, the one in South Lethbridge, it could be a storefront. It could be part of a smaller strip mall development. There's a number of options, I think, that you might want to look at. And what we did in the study is we looked at both opportunities, or the costs, I should say, of renovating, which is, it's probably the hardest cost to really pin down because you don't know what you're starting with, as well as new construction. So we looked at both, but typically we would recommend that any branch library be part of a larger community of services.
Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for the presentation today. I'm not sure if this is something that the consultants can answer, or if this is something a representative from Lethbridge Public Library would be able to answer. You talk about this being a regional magnet, which starts to move into the Chinook Arch Regional Library Services territory. So I'm wondering if, when we talk about this being a regional magnet and an administrative hub for all services, does that include housing some of the Chinook Arch staff as well as Chinook Arch services? How are we going to see that starting to cross over, or will we?
I can field that question, if that's okay.
Yes, please do. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. So the plan itself does not include incorporating any Chinook Arch services. It is about local services. It does take into account that within the context that we operate right now, thank you, that Chinook Arch is part of our ability, we are able to provide services through Chinook Arch right now. So it does include our current environment, but it doesn't suggest that we should plan for expanded services to serve the region. It's really about serving the local community.
And then just further to that, you would have seen that over the past few days, we've been having some discussions as Economic and Finance Standing Policy Committee. And as part of those discussions, the value for services offered by Chinook Arch came forward. And you'll recall that this was part of last year's budget discussions, and we're just moving forward with that. Your presentation today is very timely in light of that. So in looking at the economic benefits of the library and services Chinook Arch offers, we will be looking to have Lethbridge Public Library come forward to present a value for service presentation on what you're getting from Chinook, ideally in the first quarter of 2024. Do you feel that's doable? Is that going to be possible to get from you
Yes,
in the
absolutely.
first quarter?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That was all my questions.
And just if you don't mind staying there, Ms. Plato, I'd like to just get your overall feelings about the presentation that we've seen before us, about the report that we just had. What goes through your mind?
Well, as Mr. Brown said, we spent the last 18, 19 months going through this process, collected a huge amount of information, a huge amount of feedback, looked at every possible angle we could, looked at other libraries. So a lot of work went into it. It feels to me that we did a really comprehensive job along with the consultants in planning as much as we can to the detail we can at this point for, 25 to 30 years out. And the idea is really for us to have a plan to move forward as the city's population grows. How might the library grow to serve that population? And I feel it does exactly that, what we wanted to. Again, as was mentioned, if we wanted to start getting into detailed design specifics and functional programs, we would need to do some more consultation based specifically on where the library, a new branch or a new central branch might go, and what functionality we want it to serve. But I think it really gives us the basis to go forward and do that.
Thank you. Do I have any other questions from my colleagues at this point? I see none. Thank you very much, Ms. Plato. Thank you very much to our consultants online. Appreciate you bringing forward that information, well detailed. And I'll see you in 2045. Okay. Thank you. I have a resolution from Councillor Schmidt-Rempel. Be it resolved that Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee accepts the Lethbridge Public Library Facilities Master Plan as information. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
So as Mr. Matthews was just whispering in my ear here, the question that I had about Chinook, or about Lethbridge Public Library coming forward to present on value for service for Chinook Arch Library Systems, can we have that in Q1 of 2024? Can we have that added to the motion, please?
Yes. Sure. You've got the power.
It's actually Jen's resolution.
Okay, Jen doesn't. Sure.
I'm friendlying myself.
Any objections? Nope, I see none. Take
right.
that as a friendly to yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll just wait until that gets updated on the screen. Please. Reporting back here. Yep. Economic, report back to economic. Report back to economic.
We could just put it SBC.
Report back to SBC.
She's ready? Oh, there it is. Okay. All right, there we have the by Q1 2024.
Council.
Q1. Is that good? By Q1 2024?
Yep. And, yeah, end of Q1 2024. Value for services from Chinook Arch Regional Library System, with a report on value for services from Chinook Arch Regional Library System. Okay.
Report.
Yeah, let's get a
report.
T on the report. And then instead of from, change it to on. And take the S off of systems, please.
And do the hokey pokey. Okay. All right.
And instead, it's not Chinook Arch Library, it's Lethbridge Public Library.
Here we go.
That'll do
There we
it.
go.
Yep.
We got it.
Yep.
All right. Any objections or any questions on this resolution? We're good with that. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much. So we heard today that the purpose of the master plan is to evaluate current library service provision in the city of Lethbridge and the role as resource library in the region, assess existing service levels and identify recommendations to improve enhanced levels based on stakeholder needs, including guiding principles for future facility planning, identify recommendations to guide future library strategic plans and facilities directions, including tools and criteria to guide future capital decision-making, provide information to assist with operating and capital investment decisions, and recommend functional programming for future library facility needs, including budgetary cost estimates. That's what the purpose of this master plan is to do. I've added the second portion of that because we were also talking about the Chinook Arch Library System value to the library, which ties into this introduction that the master plan is providing us. With that, I would ask for my colleague's support.
All right. Question has been called. Everyone in favor? Opposed? That passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks to the library. Moving on. Okay. All right, I have a motion. We'll go with Councillor Parker. Be it resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend the City Council direct that the city clerk send a notice of intent to designate the property to the owner of 411 3rd Avenue South. And further be it resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council give first reading to bylaw 6425 as provided in attachment 1. And further be it resolved that the Safety and Social Standing Policy Committee recommend that City Council consider bylaw 6245 for second and third reading after the required 60 days notice has passed. Councillor Parker.
Thank you, Vice Chair. And first of all, before we get into debate, is there any questions on this at this time?
I see none. Is Mr. Kilgore here by any chance? He's not, is he?
So if you do have any questions,
Oh,
Mr.
there he
Kilgore
is. Oh, yes, he is. He is here. If anyone has any questions.
Is there anything that needs to be clarified or anything like that? That's the question. She's never mic on.
Yeah. Is there any highlights about this particular historic designation? I wouldn't mind just letting the public know where this actually is and why it's historic. Yeah, she's not sure.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, so this is the Whitney block at 411 3 Avenue South. It's currently vacant, and the new owner is in the process of getting development permits and renovating the whole building to bring it back into use. And so they're also applying for designation as a municipal historic resource. The building has been on our heritage inventory since our very first inventory in 2007, so it's been recognised as one of the most important sort of historic buildings that we have. And then this is the first time that any of the owners in that time have applied for designation. So Historic Places Advisory Committee have supported their application and are recommending that Council proceed with designation. We are doing or recommending a slight departure from the usual process here, just to assist the applicant with compressing the timeline slightly in the designation process, just to help them meet their deadlines for grant applications. Normally what we would do is have the request for decision go first to council to initiate the designation process, and then the first reading of the bylaw would come after the 60-day waiting period, followed by second and third reading at a subsequent council meeting. So this time we're requesting that the first reading comes at the same time as the process is initiated. So that would just essentially knock a couple of weeks off the usual timeline. And we have been advised that this is still in line with the Historical Resources Act requirements, so there's no issues there.
Thank you, Mr. Kilgore. Any other questions for Mr. Kilgore while he's standing there? Sir, I didn't see you. You were way behind when you were there. Okay, anyway. Thank you. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Parker.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Kilgore, for just giving a brief summary as well. And thank you for the work behind the scenes on this. And I don't think there's any debate on this in regards to people against it. This is by the proponent. So I'd ask for council's, other SPC support in sending this to council.
All right.
Question?
Question's been called. All in favor? That passes. And next item. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel, you're there? Sir, thank you. Be it resolved that the Community Safety Standing Policy Committee recommends that council receive the updated Whoop Up Drive Emergency Traffic Protocol as information. Councillor Schmidt-Rempel?
Thank you very much. And, okay, you wanted to, I was going to ask if Mr. Sanchez or Mr. Brierley would like to highlight some changes in this particular item, please.
Mr. Breyer.
Yeah, either one. I was going to ask for somebody to speak to this one, please.
Perfect, thank you. Through the chair, yes, I would like to speak to this. So this follows the incident at the end of June where westbound Whoop-Up lanes were closed for several hours, and that evening, Mr. Sanchez and I were on the phone a lot, and I've had a number of discussions since then. And as organizations change and people retire and move on, sometimes memory is lost and things change. And this was definitely a factor in that, as well as incidents like that only happen once every few years. So what, at the end of the day, what it resulted in is really an opportunity for us to do better. We weren't where we needed to be. We recognized that. And after that, I got the team to come together, which includes all of emergency services, including LPS and all of the relevant departments, most of them under Mr. Sanchez, and to work through after action report and what happened, what needed to be improved, where the responsibilities needed to lie, and how we could do better going forward. So with that, the team's done a lot of work, still has some work to do planned as far as putting these into exercise and practice that they can certainly speak to, and resulted in the report that's here before you today. So that was the driving factors behind this and the report that's there. And with that, I can turn it over to the team, and I see Mr. Sanchez and Deputy Chief Borland are here to answer any questions that members of the committee may have.
Mr. Sanchez, do you want to add to? Sorry, Councillor Parker.
Thank you very much. And I recall when I remember Mr. Hawkins was the infrastructure steward at the time, and I remember there was a tragic incident that did happen, if not 7 or 10 years ago, and we had to find a new way of doing about this. And there's a lot of brainstorming in regards to this new idea of having these gates, moving gates and all that, and which is good. And I remember that night, actually, Councillor Rempel and I were talking to each other, like, this is a gong show, what's going on here and all that. And I'm glad Mr. Brierley was working on it weeks after that, because they knew this is a big issue. My question is, have you guys done a test dry run of this, like the pretend scenario, like, hey, let's pretend something happened and we open it up for an hour just to see? Sorry, is that your question? Okay. Because because it's kind of like you do a fire alarm at school, like, you do that kind of stuff. Are you guys doing something like that just to test it?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Sanchez.
There you go. Yeah.
I can answer that. Yes, it's part of the work that we did here. We, like Mr. Bradley mentioned before, when you have something in place, if you don't review it, it's not a good idea. And this will be a living document. We actually have Luke Palmer, and as he mentioned before, we have a committee that includes fire, police, public operations. We already have set up a tabletop exercise for December 11th. So we are getting that on board, and there will be also at one point an actual exercise to simulate this on a Sunday morning, a day that we know that it's not going to impact any traffic, and we can actually communicate ahead of time. And part of the revisions, I want to stress that this plan here, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, is a living plan. Even after incident, we will need to do a debrief to see what was the lesson learned. What can we do different? And there are other ideas that we are considering in terms of making it easier in order to implement this plan faster. So that's all included in this document. And by any means, it's a final document, will be reviewed as we go on a yearly basis and after every incident that is going to be.
Thank you. Any other questions from my colleagues? I was so happy to see that this was worked on. I mean, as we all know, having lived in Lethbridge, especially if you're on the west side, and if something goes wrong on Whoop Up Drive, and then something goes wrong on 3rd Avenue, or on the Highway 3 bridge, it is a nightmare. It's like you're at Deerfoot, and it's just, it is. So I'm so thankful that you're doing something about it and going into this, so appreciate that, the effort that you're doing for that. Joel. Oh, sorry, and, he wants to, sorry.
I just want to add something
I'm
else.
learning this technology, sorry.
That we identified during the exercise too. One of the next steps we're doing is also working with the province as well, because we have the control over Woodwood Drive, but Highway 3 falls under the provincial control, and is working with them because we know every time something happens in Woodwood Drive, chances are there will be, everybody's trying to go through highway and there is another incident, which is what happened during that June day. So that collapsed everything.
Yeah.
So we're going to be working with them. That's part of the next steps as well, to make sure we have a collaboration between all the stakeholders.
Fantastic, thank you. Any other questions? I see none. Back to you, Councillor Schmidt-Rempel.
Thank you very much, and thank you for all the hard work that's been done on this. It's been great to see. It's come a long way from the single page that I know the Councillor Croson and I reviewed in the Police Commission over the past month. The Whoop Up Drive emergency traffic protocol has been recently updated. We see this here today in response to an incident that occurred on June 28th, 2023. The revisions aim to enhance emergency response procedures and ensure more efficient traffic management during critical emergency situations. These changes are expected to improve overall safety and coordination along Whoop Up Drive to ensure the movement of traffic during disruption. And just sort of a reminder to the community, you will see some practice scenarios being run, so please be on the lookout for those. And I would ask that when those scenarios are being run, and even the tabletop simulation, perhaps the council can be invited to watch so that we can add to our learning in what's going on with this. I think it's important for council to learn. This is a very important part of our emergency planning. This is a huge one for us, so it would be good if council could watch and learn from that as well. I'll bring cookies and coffee, and we'll watch that. With that, I will ask for my colleagues' support.
Question's been called. All in favor? That passes unanimously. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Good.